Bullying and changing culture useful tools.
Okay, so sometimes the bullying is a matter of the culture of the company. There are reasons why some companies promote themselves as being aggressive within its structure. Bullying is a ramification of people trying to advance in their career, um, trying to control their career, or fear that they're going to lose their job. And so bullying comes out as a way to control their environment. And it can be part of a very negative, very unproductive culture. And I'll talk about that in a minute. But there's an expression that says that if you teamwork or you come together with seven people, you can change a company because other people will see that teamwork and want to be part of that scenario, part of that team. And I'll give you an example. There was a group, a financial group, and the group, had like 5, 6 people in it, and they had a hugely bad reputation by the state that they were working for, and within the company. And a man came in, and there were some changes, and the man came in and he said, "Let's start working on the culture with a couple of the others," and they said, "Yeah, let's do it." So they became the most effective team. They did far more with far less people, and in that team, the whole company, there were 400 people on the floor. The whole company wanted to be part of that team, wanted to be part of that group. And of course they couldn't, but they were the envy of the company because they started working on their relationships. They started working on themselves as a team. Now there was one of the team members, he was a young guy, and he had this little baby, and the baby had to be flown for surgery. And so they didn't know who was going to cover his information. Now it's really harsh when you go away on something that you have to do and then you come back and all your work's waiting for you. And so they all got together and volunteered to spend an hour or two every day cleaning up his desk, it's called. And what they were doing was they were doing his job. They had cross-trained each other on each other's jobs, so they all knew what to do. And they would all take an hour or two of overtime and go and do it. And the company loved it because they respected that this team was so close. So one of the things is never in a team, never think of anyone as lesser than yourselves. Um, I saw a man with a PhD, and he was very proud of the PhDs he had, and he wasn't that smart. And I met this man who dropped out of 8th grade because he had to support his family because his dad died, and he was older, and he was the smartest man I've ever met. He understood huge amounts of mathematics. They would bring it to me and say, "What does this mean?" I'm going, "Okay, this is what it means," but wow. And so he was the smartest man I ever met, and he had an 8th grade education. So don't look down on anybody that's going to be in your team or around you. This group was so respectful to other people that they loved being around these people. So there was a man. I'll give you an example. There was a man who came in, and he was talking to the receptionist, and she was very warm and friendly, and she told him about her time with the company, and he was just talking to her, treated her with respect, treated her like she was somebody important. Verbally, he used no invalidators and he used only validators. So the next woman came in and she was all dressed up and she had all this stuff into her name and all this education and all this other stuff, and she was rude to the lady. She was just like, you know, rude. She was using it. That's an invalidator. She was using invalidators, and so the conversation went through, and they went to go into the interview. He went first, and he talked um, to one guy, not the CEO, one step down, and then he talked to this other lady, and then he said, "I want you to meet the CEO." So they go into this woman's office, and he does first, and it's it's the receptionist. The receptionist was playing receptionist to get to know these people, and then she went in afterwards, and then guess who got the job? He did, because he was personable, because he treated her with respect no matter what position. So it's a pretty good lesson about bullying. Can be very subtle. It can be believing that you don't, because of your education, you're lesser than someone else. And in fact, it's funny. I talk about this later, but I was going through how many CEOs. I mean, dropped out of college, don't have a college degree. It's like, okay, so there's Bill Gates, there's Steve Jobs, there's the guy that started Tumblr left high school at 15. There's Oprah Winfrey. There's all this list of people. Almost everybody that's a billionaire now dropped out of college. And it's just amazing to see. So you can do that research. I'll do a little bit later in another video, but it's just don't treat anybody as an underling. Don't treat anybody as more important than you. That's true. Have some self-respect. It makes bullying by psychopaths harder if you have a fitting self-esteem, a clean, emotionally normal self-esteem. So I was going to discuss this later on, but because I've already talked about it, the the idea that you have to have a formal education to do a good job is kind of a invalidator in a way. I'll tell you a story. This man shows up for this job. He wanted the job, but he didn't have a bachelor's degree or a master's degree. Now, the job required a master's and at the very minimum with experience, a bachelor's. And so he told him straight out, hey, I don't have that degree. And so it was nice and everything. He said, I've gotten other jobs by doing an IQ test and a skills test. And so they called him up later, like that day, and say, yeah, we can set up an IQ test and a skills test. Let's see if you can do the job. So he goes and he takes it the next day. He went and took it. 6 hours long, man. So he takes the test, and he has a pretty high IQ. And they called him back and they said, you're hired. And the reason why was because with all his experience, he tested at high it was a highly gifted IQ, and which is right before genius. And he tested his skills test was PhD level. So it's like you're looking down on somebody because of their education. Maybe you should see if they've done the job before, or have or can do the job. He certainly could do the job, and he did remarkable things for the company. So that's where looking down on somebody is such a disadvantage, and using education as an invalidator is so um, unprofitable.